So I'm going to be pleased to welcome Don Kingsborough, CEO of OneMarket, and Erik Nordstrom, the co-president of Nordstrom, Inc.
Hey, Jack.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. So you're lucky there's no news going on around Nordstrom these days.
Then we can move on.
So we'll start real quick and then we'll jump into, the larger discussion. But, there was some news just a couple hours ago that if people in the room don't know, the Nordstrom family has been trying to take the company private. And there was an announcement today that those talks have, the company has ended those talks. So, Erik, what now?
What now? Not the same as we've been doing. Our goal's always been to be the best fashion retailer we can be, and for us, the mission stays the same.
Obviously, there are some things that would be easier as a private company in this transformation age.
Maybe. I would say I appreciate the questions, but not necessarily. In all honesty, I just can't get into much about the deal.
Okay, we'll circle back around.
All right. Thanks.
So Don, you've had a lot of really interesting roles in your career, payments world, retail world, banking world. I think there are plenty of people in the room who know what OneMarket is, but probably a couple or more who don't. So can you just give us the quick pitch, and then we'll explain why you're two up here together?
Yeah, I've been around retail for over 40 years, and what I saw happening at the beginning of this 2000 was that retailers were falling further and further behind, and fundamentally what I saw was a new business model. What everyone perceived as a technology, I thought was not just a technology, but really a business model, and that retailers were slow to adopt it as a technology, but even slower to adopt it as a business model, and that was platforms and networks. And what I wanted to do was essentially help physical retailers compete with people like Amazon. And I thought it took building a platform and a network that enables them to move from slow to fast and to test and learn things, and to make, they have these assets called stores that most of the financial people in the room thinks are bad things for retailers, when in fact experiences is what this next generation is going to want, and it's a perfect place to create these experiences. And so we built a platform over the last 3 or 4 years in which we enable technology companies, we customize their technologies for retailers to use. We develop some of our own. What you'll see soon is some retailers will develop their technologies for their customers and on the platform that then you can share so that you have cost advantages. Everything can be in the cloud. If there's a new natural language program, if there's new machine learning, that you can build in the cloud, and that can get shared. And retailers will compete on the basis of things they do, the products that are in their stores, and the things they do for their customers. But the table stakes, they can be shared and have these new technologies not 5 years late, but exactly when the consumer is ready to transition to that new technology.
And just for some context, the company you now run was spun out of Westfield Corporation.
Yeah, so Westfield started this a few years ago, and I was on the board of Westfield. They had a vision to do it internally because they had all these physical assets. As some of you may know, we're on the other end of it, Erik. Westfield is being acquired by a company called Unibuy, and OneMarket is going to be spun out in the next 10 or 12 weeks into a public company, and then Westfield will be part of Unibuy, and so that's what's happening.
So Nordstrom is a partner now of OneMarket, and when you're looking at what they're doing, we'll dive into some specifics hopefully. What did you see here that made you want to participate? Because you talk a lot about collaboration between retailers. Retailers are very competitive as well. So I'm wondering what the allure was.
Retailers are competitive. I'm not sure we're more competitive than shopping center owners that, and for Westfield and Don to take this on is quite something. Well, I mean, what resonated with us was really the vision of just a way of viewing the world that, obviously we're all dealing with these pretty enormous changes happening in our industry, happening with customers. And what resonated with us is Don and OneMarket's vision of the world that really where the customer is today is in platforms, lives on platforms. And I like, his comment saying these new models emerge. I think we've all gone through these phases of dealing with these changes where, at least for retailers who are steeped in bricks and mortar, you have this business model that's a bricks and mortar business model, and okay, you add an e-commerce business, and there's e-commerce business, and still to this day, the number one question we get as a public company and of people looking to invest in our company is, okay, I've got my models, I've got a physical store model, and its profitability's pretty good. I've got an e-commerce model, profitability's not very good. But I know business is shifting to e-commerce, so your profitability is going to go down. So
why don't you take the company private?
Help me. Well, no. No.
A dog on a bone. A dog on a bone.
That's right.
But you get stuck in that
Yeah.
view of the world. You're filling numbers into boxes, and there is a new model. The customer, number one, doesn't shop that way, and I think we've all kind of come to understand that. But there's a new model that can emerge, and what resonated with us is, we have to go where the customer is, and the customer lives on platforms, and we're not the smallest company, we're not the biggest company. We can, in some ways, be a platform for some activities. Other ways, we're not big enough, and we need to collaborate to be able to participate in platforms where customers are and to serve them better. And that's really what resonated. The specifics, we weren't as interested in because we have no doubt they'll change, and they have changed, but it was, here is a vision that, part of it felt good. It's, you start dealing with change, you feel a little on defense. It's like, God, there's assets we have, and we can go on the offense and win with the customer and also come with a model that's a win for our company too.
So are there any current technology products or manifestations of what you're talking about out in the real world that you can point to and say, something that the audience can understand as something you've either sold to retailers or products that we can go and see in some way?
Sure. I mean, we are still at the early stages. We spent the last period of time building out the capabilities, enabling technologies. The first product that we're launching is a simple one. It's the idea of making digital receipts available in physical stores and online, but not as a receipt, but as a communications channel. Just like social was a communication channel on the web, there's a connective tissue in which this becomes a utility that the consumer can communicate with the retailer, and the retailer can communicate with them and put it in apps that the consumer already has on their phone. So they don't have to download, such as Messenger or something like that. And so that's the first product that we have launched. And so that's what's in the market today, but just in the early stages.
There's been some talk when you've been marketing the company about data sharing.
Yeah.
There's like Facebook data sharing, which is like in the news for a lot of very terrible ways. Can you give me any color, even if you don't have a product out in the market, what you mean by that, and how I can imagine retailers actually being comfortable sharing data with each other?
Sure. I mean, it's a difficult concept for retailers to embrace it first. But the way that we see it working is a retailer's data is very valuable, but it's usually just it's just in that retailer. But the consumer shops at lots of other retailers, and so the idea is you don't share any one individual retailer's information with anyone else. You essentially aggregate that so that you augment the databases of the retailers so they get to understand the customer more holistically, as if they were shopping in a platform, a digital platform that had tens of thousands of retailers on it, and you got to see what the consumer was doing across many retailers. And then the second stage of it has to do with, we believe that physical space is the other place in which you can digitize, and that the movement of the consumer, what the consumer does when they're in physical spaces, they've made a decision to go buy something, is very much like the cursor on a digital screen, that there's meaning to the actions and the movements that they take. So we're digitizing this physical space and the consumer databases so that the retailer can understand more about the consumer so that they then can do what they do best, which is provide the products and services that the consumer wants to buy from them, whether it's in a physical store or whether it's online.
So part of what you were talking about made me think of lookalike in the ad targeting world of like lookalike audiences, sharing data and then getting an aggregate group and then allowing people to go out and find people like that. Are you talking about
No, it's much more about the individual consumer and augmenting the individual consumer. That's who the retailer needs to understand. Not that they need to understand there are thousands of people like these people, but understanding the individual person better outside their own store we think is a critical aspect of the future.
Erik, how much of a challenge is it, or how much do you think about what the Nordstrom shopper does when they're not shopping at Nordstrom or where else they're shopping? Is that something that is a thought process for you? I mean, we could go down deep on the other Seattle retailer, but we'll get to that too.
Yeah, I look out my window. I see a lot of cranes.
They're pretty at night.
Yeah, they're
nice
never
cranes.
pretty for you. Okay. Well, for us, we look at it, more simplistically, I think, of how can we serve our customer better. And we're not the everything store. That's not our mission. That's not how we're going to win. It's actually quite the opposite. And we participate in fashion retail and a portion of fashion retail. It's got some real differences that we need to play to. So we're certainly interested in information that can allow us to serve the customer better, to be relevant for the customer, to aid in a journey of discovery of newness in fashion, which we think is super important. So, do we know everything that's going on the customer? No, I don't think that. But what kind of clicked for me as I heard kind of Don kind of explain these things and sharing data, and that was hard for us to get over that. To me, I kind of equate it to a shopping center. Retailers, when we go into a shopping center, we want to be with the best retailers in the world. We want to make a great center. You need the best retailers around us. Now, once we're there, we compete like hell, and we want to take them down, and we want to win the customer. But you're trying to win on the things that are really core to your brand. A lot of data, there's a foundational level that as individual retailers or mall operators or brands or maybe even content providers, on its own in a silo is not very powerful, but together can give us a foundation, and then we can compete on the things that are unique to our brand and try to win customers that way.
On that thread about competing and doing what you do best and having that be a differentiator, we were talking earlier about public company investors looking at physical and digital and as two separate things. Over the last couple of years, Nordstrom has made a couple of acquisitions, one in particular that kind of bridges both, which is Trunk Club. It was a couple of years ago now. I remember some angry interactions with Nordstrom as I broke the news of that, but that's.
I didn't know that.
You
Is there a story there that I should know?
There's not a story. I'm just doing my job. All right. Shortly, in earnings you talk about Trunk Club a bit, but not too long after the acquisition, you wrote down some of the cost, and so I'm curious what has worked and what hasn't with that business, and sort of what do you think long term, like how critical a piece of for the men's business is that of bridging digital and physical?
Well, Trunk Club's men's and women's now.
Yep.
It started as men's, so we think it's an important asset both ways. And, first of all, I think just context. Trunk Club, that acquisition reflects. We don't do a lot of acquisitions, but I would pair it with when we bought Outlook a few years before that. So here's a flash sale business, and here's a online styling business. They don't seem to have much in common. For us, it's. We certainly believe that a customer is more empowered and more in control of how they want to shop than ever before. And our job isn't to try to coerce them into the ways to shop that we want them to shop. Our job is to be where they want to be, which means we have to have more ways to serve them. We have to have more plays we can run. And we felt both of those models were big enough markets that we needed to have that in our arsenal. Trunk Club, I think it's like a lot of startups. It's a business model. There's something there that we really believed in that resonated with customers, but the specifics of the model have gone through a lot of changes. And in general, it's a much more data-driven business than when we started with it. When we started with it, it was a very stylist-driven business. It was an individual stylist who had an individual customer and was more of a free agent in deciding what to put in the trunk and the box and sending it to the customer. It's one of those examples where data's better. It's just flat out better to inform what should go in the box, how many items should be in the box, how often we should be engaged with the customer. And so for the last year, the team there has really kind of pulled back on the marketing, pulled back on the business to get the model correct and something that we can scale. And we think we're rounding the corner there. The last several months in particular have been much better, and we think the model is something that we can really pour the gas on now. But again, generally I would say it's again having data drive that business.
So should we expect that we'll see more marketing push around it in the near future, or?
Oh, I don't know if it's anything you'll see. We're not the biggest marketers in the world, but certainly in a very more personalized way, digital marketing, we're going to be a little more aggressive there.
Don, when you go and pitch this idea to retailers, and you also work with other, besides Westfield, but other shopping centers and development companies, is that right?
That's right.
What is the feedback you get that is the toughest to overcome in that set? It's a sell, right? For this to be valuable, you need a lot of, I would assume, you tell me if I'm wrong, you need a lot of retailers buying in, right? And retailers are going through a bunch of different changes right now all over the world. And so I'm curious what the obstacles are right now in your sales pitch and how you're overcoming that.
Well, I mean, I think, first of all, it's a simultaneous equation in that to build out a network, whether it was Blackhawk, which became a large grocery network that I built out, or whether it was at PayPal. The retailers are highly motivated now to try and move faster. And they see Amazon as a real threat. And so that's been those have been two of the motivating factors. The hardest thing is to think going slow to fast, and then action going slow to fast has been probably the most difficult thing. Data always comes up, and for two reasons. Most of these retailers have been around and earned all of their customers in what they do every single day, and it's not easy for them to give up that data. It's only in the context of winning and losing that at the executive level, they clearly understand that collaboration could be one of the things that make a difference and allow them to keep more effectively into the future. And so you have to get enough retailers doing this where essentially you have all of the consumers anyway. 30 retailers or so get you essentially every consumer in the United States, and 10 or 15 get you all the consumers in the UK. Once you have that, then the barriers to care about it go away because you already have everyone. And so to me, those are the two things. It's saying they want to go slow to fast and then doing it, and then it's getting them through the data part so they understand that their data isn't being compromised, it's being augmented. Those are the two hardest things.
What are the privacy implications, and how do you handle those? Of you're talking about sharing data between.
You're not sharing the data, you're sharing the implications of the data, the augmentation.
Explain that to me.
So consumers do
It's been a long
things.
day, so.
So no one shares a consumer. If Nordstrom is a customer, we don't share with another retailer. We don't share a Nordstrom customer with anyone. That's a Nordstrom customer. What we do is augment the data of the retailers and for that matter, shopping malls. When we started out, shopping malls were at first even more resistant, but they have come around, and they were a big competitor when we were wholly owned by Westfield. Shopping malls first wanted to figure out, why should I do business with you? They got over it when they realized that the only answer to their problem was the consumer was going to all different shopping malls also. And so until you have a common platform where you can build technology that enable experiences inside the shopping mall, that until you had a platform that did that, and it had to work where they were coordinated because the same shopper went from one shopping mall to another shopping mall. The same thing is true here. It takes time, but once you get critical scale, then it becomes a much easier thing, and that's how all networks have built that over time.
Got it. Erik, the name Amazon has come up a few times. I know we talked about the cranes. They've made a pretty healthy push over the last couple of years into fashion, trying to do a lot of it organically. What have you thought of their efforts and how it does or doesn't affect your company and your customer base?
Well, Amazon's this massive company and presence that's, I take the glass half full. I think they've been very helpful in forcing us to get sharper on who we are and where we can win. And in particular, what that's led us to is, again, for what we do, our place in fashion, we're not a price promotional retailer, and what drives our business.
I bought this jacket through Trunk Club, and
well, thank you.
It was a lot of money. Yeah.
It was a great value. Newness drives.
I wore it just for you, Erik.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Newness drives our business, and being a place of discovery, and at least I think in the products we participate in, they're not commodities, and brands matter. There's a lot of retail has gone to commodities and brand values have been taken out of it. There's always the new hot fashion brand that's not everywhere, and that people are looking to discover. Lots of customers come to us not knowing exactly what they want. They come to us, they want something new. And often the best experience we can provide a customer is they leave with something they know they wouldn't have gotten on their own, and ends up being the favorite thing in the closet. So being that place of discovery, which means curation, means personalization, means having a differentiated product offer, things that you can't find everywhere. Those things are very much in contrast to the sweet spot of what Amazon's model is, and it's, I think it fits with what OneMarket's doing and can help us amplify those efforts. And it's something that we're very excited about. I sit here today and I think our team's ever been more optimistic than we are today, that it's, there's change going on in the industry, and we don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but I don't think fashion brands are going to go away. Newness is always going to be important, and we have assets between a Trunk Club, a whole look, but digital and physical assets. We have our stores. We have inventory that's close to customers. There's things we can do in a customer's journey that's pretty unique to what we have, and we think compelling. And in fashion is one of those things. There's not going to be one player. There's always newness, and I think it keeps us all on our toes of not only who are the traditional competitors you've had, but who are the new people coming up that are doing something that's really game changing.
So we're going to, in a minute, we're going to kick it to audience Q&A. So if you have questions, there are 2 mics here. I'm not afraid to call on people. But one more thing just on that thread. So you mentioned discovery as a big piece of the Nordstrom experience. And for the most part, Amazon has not nailed that. It's a place you go when you know what you want. So those seem like really complementary businesses, like one next to each other. There's always speculation about what Amazon will buy next, and do you like? Are you flattered by that? Yeah. Do you want to keep? I could dig my own.
Am I flattered by your question about that?
Yes, really, that's exactly what I meant.
I don't think so.
Is there a question in there? I'm
Yeah. That was
Your
very,
instructions
that was very
were no
fair.
statements.
All right.
Thank you, guys. We're done for tonight. What do you think of Amazon as a potential acquirer of Nordstrom?
No, I'm not going there.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Otherwise, I'm sure they're begging for one. Phil, if there's a mic there, could you and tell us who you are?
I am Phil Woobba, a competitor of Jason's at Fortune magazine. So, Erik, one of your colleagues, Shay Jensen, is that how you pronounce it? Was talking about Nordstrom Local today at a session, and she talks about the importance of the concept as being, a service center, but the idea was not for the store to generate immediate revenue, but really to cultivate the relationship with the customer and services. But now, since you're going to be in Wall Street's Klieg lights for indefinitely, how do you explain to people who need to understand, you spend a lot of money on the New York store, on Canada, how do you reassure people that you're spending wisely on developing your business when there's a lot of concern about costs and how do you sort of reconcile the idea that you have to spend money to make money?
Well, that really hasn't been a problem for us. We've made a lot of investments the last number of years, and really hasn't been a problem at all being able to invest in the business. And a lot of those investments, especially technology, have been foundational investments that weren't customer-facing right off the bat. They allowed us to do some things eventually customer-facing. Having the freedom to invest in the businesses we think we need to, that hasn't been a problem at all.
Hey, Billy Robbins with Zendesk. So you made some recent acquisitions. It seems like a slightly different shift from your prior acquisition of acquiring brands and different purchase moments for consumers. Can you talk about is there a shift in the thesis as you look at the acquisition strategy? And then as you're sitting next to Don, how does that play into how far you would share with the anti-Crane cooperative?
New team name for us. Well, he's referring to two small technology companies that we acquired a week or so ago, Bevy Up and Message Yes, both two local Seattle companies. We don't have an acquisition strategy. We have a capability strategy. We have, what capabilities do we think we need to serve our customers better? And part of, I think, the message with our OneMarket, that means partnerships. That means finding capabilities that are complementary to what we have. And the relationship can take different means. It could be a commercial relationship like OneMarket. We've done investments in some small companies, and we've done some acquisitions. It's really what's the best means to an end. In that example, Message Yes is a company that we've worked with for quite a while. They've developed an app for salespeople. Shay talked about it in her previous presentation. It's called Style Boards. It's a Pinterest-type digital tool that our salespeople can send a curated offering to their customers. So they're very good at, we think in particular, employee apps and bringing tools to our people. And we have 22,000 salespeople. They continue to be super important. So that's what we liked about them. We've been working with them, so it was kind of a natural step. Message Yes is a personalization technology company, and certainly that's capability we need more of. And they have some very skilled folks there who, I don't know, it was kind of like dating. We liked them, they liked us, and so we, I guess, got hitched. And so that's getting these capabilities, and again, some of those capabilities is a product, and some is people talent.
Try to get 2 very quick questions.
My question's for Erik. So this
Just tell
is
us who you are, please.
Tracy Benjamin from Alliance Data. My question is really about department stores and kind of the heritage of what they were, what they are now, and maybe what they could be. And I actually feel like you do it really well. Department stores were that space where, smaller retailers could put their product and sell it in a larger space, and it was convenient. And I kind of feel like that could be the future, but department stores are, kind of a naughty word right now. And so I'm curious to know what you think about the real estate that you currently have. It's large. Is that the right space? What do you think about the future of department stores as far as going back to some of the heritage that they once were?
Well, a couple of things on that. And this may sound like semantics, but we do not believe we're a department store. And as a kid, I remember this would come up, and I remember my dad, who's a pretty even-keeled guy, would kind of get riled up about, we're not a department store, we're a specialty store. And I was like, whatever, Dad. And it's, it's a big store at the end of the mall with an escalator. So I didn't understand it then, but it's, our roots are as a fashion specialty store. Now, we've grown and the box got a little bigger, but to this day, we do not consider ourselves a department store, and it's important for us. It helps our focus on fashion, on newness, on discovery, and curation. And for us, brands are super important, but we're not going to become a shopping center. We're not looking to turn over real estate to brands. That is, especially as the world's become more digital, I don't know how compelling of a customer experience that is. If a customer wants just a siloed brand experience, they would go to the brand site or the brand store. So, for us, part of discovery is this breadth of merchandise and being able to expose it to customers, both in a physical environment and digitally at relevant times. And one of the things we know, we've got more customer data, we're the number one place where a customer makes their first designer purchase, true luxury designer purchase. And that fits with us. It means we have a little younger customer, and our environment offers up this product at the right time, and it's an inclusive environment, so it kind of works that way. So I'm not getting to your question, am I? To answer your question about the real estate.
I think you're close. And so I guess my point is some of those designers, to your point, and this is why I say I think you do it very well, but a lot of those designers, and you know it and I know it, they can't afford those spaces in New York City anymore. And so that's where I kind of feel like we're going back to the idea of a concept of a department store where they can actually sell their product and the consumer's first introduction is in your store. I think that's exciting. I'm probably alone in the room when I say I support department stores there. But I wonder, it's going to be different, and I wonder what your thoughts are about how that's going to be different. And, is it showrooming, or how do you anticipate that to kind of play out in the next 5 years? That's really maybe what I'm asking.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, we're trying different things. I was mentioned our Nordstrom local store that we have in LA, which is a couple thousand square feet. We don't buy merchandise for it. It's a space that we have stores all around it, but it's a space we can do buy online, pick up in store. We can do stylist appointments, alterations, manicures, all sorts of things we can do there. And it's not, I don't think the way to think about that is, boy, that's a replacement for a store. Stores are going to become tiny stores without merchandise, and it's going to be sent in. It's another asset, a physical asset that is very linked to digital assets that is complementary to what we have. Now, what the right mix is there, we don't know, and I don't think anyone knows. I think we have to go into it with a lot of curiosity, a willingness to test and learn, and let the customer tell us what we can do. Part of what I think directionally, which is exciting, there's a lot of excess retail space in the United States, and we're not the biggest. We have 122 stores, so we don't have 800, but it's a lot of stores, and so there's some excess space, but there's opportunities for I think where technology can help like anything is in inventory efficiency, which one of the offshoots of that is there's going to be space, and there's space that we can do things with. We can focus on services. We can give experiences, and what that means exactly and what's going to resonate with customers, I don't know, but I think we have to be in a position to be aggressive in trying things, testing and learning, and pivoting quickly on what the customer tells us.
Thank you.
All right. We're unfortunately way over time, so I wanted to thank Don and Erik very much, and you'll see me back soon enough. Thanks, guys.